wanna lend a hand, say to mommy now.
And welcome to Heal DC. This is Joni, and I'm extremely excited about our show for you today. Today is the first Monday of Black History Month, and the first Monday for our Winter Pledge Drive. Before I begin, I want to thank everybody who came out on Saturday to Chuck Hicks' Black History Month kickoff. We had a great turnout, about 200 folks. Tom Porter gave a riveting speech, and Chuck's taking the day off, get some rest. We have an exciting, wonderful shiro with us for the hour. None other than MUMU Fresh.
I'm good. Thank you. How you feeling?
I'm so excited to have you.
Blessing.
And listeners, for those of you who don't know MUMU Fresh, keep your ears to the radio. I am so excited about her. She is going to be covering, first of all, let me say she is from the DMV, born in Baltimore, spent her teenage years and beyond right here in Washington, D.C. She is now travels all around the world and has performed with all kinds of wonderful folks, including Common, Erykah Badu, The Roots, Sting, Dave Chapelle, and many, many others. So we're really delighted that she could be with us today. And in a moment, we're going to hear one of the inspirations for having her on this morning. We're going to be listening to hopefully 5 different songs that she's written. All of these songs relate to what we do here on this show, to Heal DC, and what we do in WPFW. The first one deals with Gaza, but we're also going to be listening to a song about police violence, the climate emergency, the poisoning of our food, and we're going to end with Harriet Tubman and Reaching Out for the North Star. All beautiful, beautiful pieces sung by MUMU Fresh. And we're going to welcome her in a moment, but first let's hear a little bit of this powerful song about Gaza.
Gaza, Gaza, the whole day through, just an old sweet song keeps Gaza on my mind. Gaza on my mind. I said, Gaza. And more sacred eyelids torn through the years. Shattered lights scream out to me. Infant eyes cry tenderly.
And what a powerful song that is. MUMU Fresh, we want to thank you for that song. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about when you wrote that and how you were feeling, how it's been to share that song. And then we're going to step back after you share that, and you can share more about who you are. But such a powerful song for now.
Thank you. I was on Instagram, watching what's happening in Gaza, the unfolding genocide and humanitarian crisis. And I was just thinking to myself, I was like, I can't sleep. Like I've never watched a genocide unfold in front of my own eyes. I've never seen mutilated body parts. I've never seen that. I've never witnessed, children having body parts amputated with no anesthesia and white phosphorus burns. Like I never have I fathomed what that could be like.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so it's just on my mind. Like that was the most. I was sitting on the floor, watching Instagram, and I heard that Gaza, Gaza, the whole day through, because that's what it's really like. That it's like it's behind whatever I'm doing during the day. There is always I'm always aware, and feeling, connected to what's happening there, and just heartbroken about it.
Absolutely. And that's why the song is so meaningful and powerful to so many of us who feel the same way. Sometimes we feel alone thinking about all these children being killed. It's now up to 27,300 people who have been killed since October 7th, many of them women and children. And it just seems to be going on and on and on. Very heartbreaking. We'll talk more about the song, but we also want to kind of introduce you a little better. And I understand that your name has some beautiful meanings. Tell us about the meaning of your name.
Of MAIMOUNA? Of my
yes.
first name? Okay. Well, in different countries, it means different things. But throughout West Africa and North Africa, and specifically in Muslim countries, it can mean kind-hearted. It can mean one who was protected by the divine. It can mean lucky. Yeah. So those are some
and auspicious. Yes. Definitely describes you. And I know Damien already knows you. And Damien, you can jump in whenever you like with a question. I understand that your mother, and Damien shared this, and I also heard that your mother has had, of course, a great influence on you. And your mother played with our own brother whose spirit is always with us here.
Absolutely. I've known Brother my whole life.
Wow.
As a child, I sat in his living room while they had rehearsals. And then as an adult, I played with him and Baba Nantambo. So he's like a second father to me. So
wow. And he's
love
definitely
him always in this realm and in the next.
Absolutely. And likewise, I was very close to Brother as well and he's definitely part of our WPFW family and always will be. Anything else you want to share about your mom and how she's influencing you?
Yeah.
These days.
So my mother's a singer, activist, water pourer, a healer. She's been very active my whole life to protect and teach the culture, Afro-Indigenous cultural practices. We were homeschooled. I ended up homeschooling my son. My mom's probably definitely the single most influential person in my life, in my consciousness. I mean, she's the reason I'm an activist and that I'm as socially conscious as I am, because that was a part of our homeschooling. Our homeschool, we were very much radicalized. Some of my classes, I studied with Ivan Van Sertima and with Jewel Pookrum and Blacks in Science. That was a part of our childhood curriculum. So that was normal for me. I didn't honestly learn I didn't learn who George Washington was until I went to public school in 10th grade. But I could tell you who Tecumseh was and who Sitting Bull was and who Patrice Lumumba was. Who Mary McLeod Bethune. I could tell you all of those things, but so our upbringing was very different. She felt like it was important to center self first before you learn about other people. Know who you are and have that be your reference point for how you view and interact with life. And it absolutely shaped who I became. It shaped how my music showed up in the world. So I always paid tribute and homage to my mother because she is a woman, born in the 1940s with a Hopi Indian name. And, she traversed this world being a sovereign nation during a time when that wasn't allowed. It was like the audacity of you to think something of yourself, and something of who you came from. And she was a Black history major in college. And she just always was that person before it was popular, before there was a natural hair movement. in our home, there was no straightening of hair, period. You were going to love yourself in all the ways you came, no matter what, So I pay homage to her for that.
Yes, and we can feel her spirit in you and in the music that you sing. And I know, Damien, you had shared a question you wanted to ask about MUMU Fresh writing the song and the song we just heard.
MAIMOUNA, it's amazing to have you on today. One of the questions, I know, taking a large step to speak out against in support of Palestine, what is something that you think that you can share with the audience, other musicians, in utilizing their platform and encouraging them to utilize their platform to speak out on this topic, and how important it is that musicians get involved in this topic also?
And maybe some of the challenges with that as well.
Well, yeah, I get it. It's I don't know. I feel like everybody has to kind of know what they're standing on, what their purpose is, why they're here, why they're making music. I think a lot of artists are scared out of standing up for justice in general, not just justice in Palestine, justice here in the United States. So many artists are afraid to say anything. They're constantly in a straitjacket, and their platforms are absolutely being co-opted and manipulated by the larger system, by their need for income. I mean, everyone has a need for income, but I would say for their belief that their income comes from someone else besides God, their belief that someone else can stop their bag. And so it puts them in a muzzle, and it does not allow them to truly be free and to be creative in the way that creatives were meant to be. And I think it destroys the whole ecosystem of art, because art was meant to be authentic, to be a true reflection of the feelings and the values of the people. But we know that for some time now, it has not been like that, because artists are afraid. They're having to choose between their livelihood and their integrity. I mean, this has been going on for a long, long time, and it doesn't stop here. This is just another example of how our humanity is constantly being held hostage, and it's really unfortunate. And I hope to see the true independent movement be able to give more freedom to artists. And I say true independent movement because independence has also been co-opted. There is an illusion of independence that is not truly independent. It's like the difference between sharecropping and slavery. You think you're working for yourself as a sharecropper, but you're still a slave. And so you see that also present in the music industry. And so these artists don't have, they're not free enough to be able to truly speak what God is putting on their hearts. And I think people should only speak what God is putting on their hearts, because people will reach out to me and say, hey, post this or have this perspective. And I'm like, no, thank you. I do what God told me to do. I don't do what humans tell me to do it. I do it when God say do it, not when you tell me to do it, So I think that's what I would say to artists is work to put yourself in a position spiritually where no weapon can be formed against you. Put yourself in a position spiritually where you can do God's work. And you can speak truth to power in a way that's authentic for you, without the fear that someone else has more control over your destiny than God has.
Absolutely, and that lesson is true. Those words are true for all of us, because in this system, unfortunately, that we live in, it oppresses everybody, unless you're in the 1% of the wealthy. But as your songs, as we're going to hear your songs, walks us through, or takes us with our ears and our heart through some of the other oppressions beyond the war. And in a moment, we're going to be listening to some of your song about a police murder. And of course, many of the listeners out there have experienced someone that they are close to who has been murdered by the police. I myself have a good friend whose son was murdered last year, and of course we know it's all too common. And after we hear a little bit of this song, we're going to be hearing from a representative from Harriet's Wildest Dreams, Frankie. And Harriet's Wildest Dreams has been very active on many issues, including the issue of police violence and protecting the community out there. And tomorrow there's going to be a very important hearing in the City Council around the crime bill, where there's a lot of concern that the crime bill is not going to do anything to stop crime. So hopefully we'll be hearing from Frankie in a moment, but let's hear some of Mumu Fresh's song.
If I should die tomorrow at the hands of the police, and the papers say we're gonna call it a suicide, would you even question why? Would you shake your head, say this ain't right, or do your best to forget about me? Please, please, please don't forget about me. Oh, say my name, say my name, say my name.
Say My Name, and such a powerful song. And again, we thank Mumu Fresh, and we want to welcome Frankie to join us. Frankie from Harriet's Wildest Dreams. Good morning, Frankie.
Good morning, Joni. Good morning, everybody else on the call this morning. I'm happy to be here.
And we're happy you're here. Tell us, for people who don't know about Harriet's Wildest Dreams, and also a little bit about what you've been doing around police violence, and then, of course, talk about the city council session tomorrow. But first, tell us about Harriet.
So Harriet's Wildest Dreams is a Black abolitionist community defense hub. And we do our work basically through 3 different pillars. We do legal defense, which is our court watch program, where we watch the courts on a weekly basis to hold judicial actors accountable. We also have our community defense pillar. And when you think community defense, I want you to think mass protests. I want you to think mutual aid. We are actually in a rapid response situation currently. We have a press conference tomorrow for a community member who was killed by police in PG. And say
that person's name.
Yes, I will have to pull up this. This is very new. It just came through last night. So I'll have to pull up the information, and we'll come back and give you all of the details. But yes, our community defense is our rapid response pillar. And then we have our political defense pillar, which is our policy and our political education, which everything under that we're doing, pushing back against this crime bill, this omnibus legislation, which is a hodgepodge of different bills that council, the mayor, introduced throughout last year. They've thrown all those things together, Joni, and put them in this one big bill package. And it's with intention that they did that, right? 93 pages of legislation is really difficult to sift through to understand what is in there. But it contains some very harmful provisions. So that's a little bit about what Harriet's does.
And Frankie, I'm sorry, could you just share maybe 2 or 3 problems with the crime bill? There have been other shows, and Roach Brown will be talking about this tomorrow as well. But tell us a few of the really very concerning and troubling things that are in this crime bill.
Absolutely, Joni. So, at the end of last year, around the fall, we were fighting against the expansion of pretrial detention. When someone is detained pretrial, that means they have not been convicted of anything. They've not had their day in court, and yet they are set to languish in the DC jail, which has its own history of death and violence. And just over the last two years, about a dozen community members have lost their lives at DC jail. And so what this bill sets to do is to expand folks being locked up before they've even had their day in court. And this is just, it's bad practice all around, because it exacerbates the cycles of harm, right? If we want to get to the true root of and cause of harm in our city, we cannot do that through mass incarceration. We cannot incarcerate our way out of economic crisis. And that's exactly what this bill sets to do. So that's one of the harmful provisions, and there's also this expansion of surveillance. The police will be able to deem any area in DC as a drug-free zone for 5 days. And that means if there are gatherings of 2 people or more, they can say, oh, we think criminal or drug activity is happening here. And we look when we look at drug use, we know that it's more successful when it's looked at from a public health lens, not from a place of punitive measures. And so they are ramping up surveillance at the same time, trying to draw back or muddle police transparency. And so this bill also makes it so police are able to look at their body cam footage before writing statements. We know police lie. And so it gives them the advantage to create the narrative of what happened at specific occurrences. And all around, Joni, this bill just has so many different provisions that will infringe on not only some of our constitutional rights, but will fuel mass incarceration. DC is already a city of have and have nots. And again, so many people are in economic crisis right now. And the most revolutionary thing that the council can think of, that the mayor can think of, is to continue to criminalize our communities. They have to begin to legislate based on facts and not feelings, based on what are the root causes of how we got here in the first place. And instead, what they're doing is trying to give specific communities, people who don't look like us, this illusion of safety, right? And not exactly what is actually going to deter harm, and solve the real issues of harm that are happening in our DC city and in our communities.
And Frankie, you're gonna be on again to talk about this more. But right now, tomorrow is the city council hearing. What do you suggest listeners do who are concerned? I think you want people to contact the city council or come out tomorrow.
Yes. So last week we did a full 5-day call-in where folks called their council members. We did walkarounds. We've had our meetings with legislators. But tomorrow, in person, we're going to be at the Wilson Building at 11:30 a.m. There will be a legislative meeting where they will cast the first vote on this omnibus legislation. And it's really important that we show up as constituents of Washington, D.C., and let them know face-to-face in person. Also, what I'd like people to know that because it is a vote tomorrow, there's not necessarily a time for public input. However, when we show up and we show up together with the power of the people and let it be known that, this is not something that we agree with. This is something that we know will not make our city safer. It can definitely change outcomes. And there's an opportunity between the first vote and the second vote to have some of the most harmful parts of this bill stricken from it.
And the second vote is going to be?
The second vote will be either 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, but it's not set on the calendar yet. So if folks want to stay up to date with what's going on, you can follow us at Harriet Streams on all platforms. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, and also visit our website at harrietstreams.org.
Okay, and I know you're also working to encourage listeners who are opposed to the slaughter and genocide in Gaza to contact the city council, to contact Phil Mendelson.
Absolutely.
Over 40 other cities around the country, including Chicago. Shout out, maybe
shout out Chicago.
Maybe Mumu Fresh can write a song about Chicago, the city that biggest city so far that has voted for ceasefire.
Yes.
And the mayor and their council members, and apparently they have the largest numbers of Palestinians in the country. So Frankie, I'm very happy you could join us. And before we're going to in a moment go into another powerful song with Mumu Fresh talking about another emergency we're in, but Mumu, did you have any comment about this issue that we're talking about.
No, I'm just listening, and I'm excited that there's work being done around this. I hear so much negative conversation about the youth. I'm the mother of a 17-year-old boy, and I get it. That I just hear so many negative things about what the youth are doing, and there's a lot going on in the city. It really is. There's a lot of crime going on, but you really can't start talking about crime without talking about the way the economy is right now. Like, it's bad, bad, bad.
And the youth need to be supportive, and there need to be more programs. There needs to be more funding
exactly. The youth have to find ways to be able to legally make money. You can't just starve people and then to say don't do crime, because all of the crime is basically, from what I've been seeing, they are crimes that have to do with economic disparity.
Absolutely.
Crimes of poverty. And we live in one of the most expensive cities to live in the country. Yes. It's bad for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And we
gotta address that.
This is a topic we talk about a lot, and we'll probably towards the end of the month, we'll have some young people coming on, and hopefully with Tyrone Parker and some of the other activists. But there are people organizing and trying to make a difference. But we all need to stand up and speak out when the city council is doing these things. And as we've been saying for decades, D.C. has the highest amount of incarcerated people, not only in the country. We've over the years, it's always been the world. Way too many people are incarcerated. But Frankie, I'm hoping you can stay on with us, because at the end of the program, we're going to play another beautiful song that Mumu Fresh wrote or added to about Harriet Tubman following the North Star. And we won't be able to play the whole thing, but she does actually speak directly to young people at the end of that powerful song.
Absolutely. Tony, I just wanted to add on, I have a 14-year-old myself, so I definitely feel you, Mumu. And part of this legislation, what it does is, for some of the mandatory minimums, it makes it so snatching someone's car keys, you'll get more time incarcerated than actually committing murder. And so when we think about the youth and we think about influence and peer pressure and things like that, imagine our 14-year-old or our 17-year-old just being out with their friends, getting or just sitting in that car, or they've never been justice impacted at all. What these bills would do is saying, because of the proximity to those other folks, now you have to spend this amount of time in jail, and there's nothing else that can be done about it. Yeah, and so it's harmful to our youth. It's harmful to adults. It's harmful on so many levels. And we can hold the nuance that there is harm happening in our communities, but this bill does not actually address the root cause of that.
Of course
so
not.
We have to do something, but it's not this.
Yes, and that's why we need to speak out, just like we need to speak out against this genocide. And Frankie, I'm hating to cut you off, but what we're doing this morning is giving listeners a whole picture of the powerful protest songs, freedom songs that Mumu Fresh has written. And the other song that we're going to play now, and again, we're just going to play snippets of these songs. This is one time I wish we had 2 hours, but this song is called State of Emergency. And when we think of this, we hear about the climate crisis, but it just seems to go, we're not doing enough about it. We know that there's these horrific storms today in Los Angeles. So let's hear a little bit of what Mumu Fresh has to say about this state of emergency that we're facing.
Skies ablaze. backdrop of a movie scene. A catchy caption and no one bothers to read. Taking for granted what we really need. The world is waking up. No time for the politics. Cause we can't lose focus. Feeling so helpless. All that's been broken and needs to be free. Sign of the times is coming quick. And we can't wait on the government. No. This is a state of emergency. Don't scroll by, show some urgency. If we don't act now, it'll be too late. We gon' let this ball head determine our fate. This is a state of emergency. Don't scroll by, show some urgency. Don't act now, it'll be too late. We can't let this ball head decide our fate. All around the world, the river's running dry, and at the same time, hurricanes and floods are at an all-time high. Something ain't right, somebody's lying. Cause these men in suits keep playing God, feeding the crowd, causing fire and drought. All of this calamity for corporate greed. Are we willing to die? Cause we losing folks, this ain't a hoax. Trying to control and it needs to be fixed. Sign of the times is coming quick, and we can't wait on the government. No. This is a state of emergency. Don't scroll by, show some urgency. Don't act now, it'll be too late. We can't let this ball hit decide our fate. A state of
Wow. What a song. State of Emergency. Mumu Fresh, tell us about that song. I mean, it's, you know, we hear climate crisis, but that kind of is getting old, those words. But the emergency we're in, and we so appreciate, we here at WPFW, that you talk about the lies that we hear all the time. Very little. In fact, things are getting worse, as they are in many other arenas. The climate crisis is getting worse. So we thank you, Mumu Fresh, for writing this song.
Thank you. I mean, and I wanted to really speak to us, right? People of color who sometimes look at climate crisis as like it's like a white issue, you know? And maybe not at the forefront because we have so many other pressing issues in our community. We don't always look at climate crisis like it is one of our predominant issues that we have to focus on, not just in the political arena in terms of reaching out to your representatives, but also in your personal life. How are you walking on the earth, and how much of a carbon imprint are you making? Because there's going to get a point very soon in our lifetimes where we will not have the opportunity to turn back the hands of time, and the earth will go on without us. You know what I mean? She'll restore herself after we're gone. And we take things like breathing clean air absolutely for granted, and having clean water for granted until we don't have it. And then nothing will be more important than how can I get just a sip of clean air to breathe, you know? And so I want us to, you know, start thinking about that, and especially, you know, as Indigenous people to the land, it is our responsibility to care for the earth and not to allow. It's like when someone comes in your house, they may not know how to treat your home, but you have to set the ground rules, and you also have to set boundaries and put people out your house when they don't treat your house well. And so I want us to start to look at the earth as ours, as our mother, something that it is our responsibility to protect, not just from other people, but to also protect from our own habits. We have learned through this industrial revolution, we have learned to be separate from the earth and not to view the earth as something that we are we have the charge to care for. And so it's to be reflective of our own actions and activities, the way we walk on the earth, our own impact, and then also to take it seriously on a political level, because unfortunately, you know, for our children, they may not have some of the basic liberties of clean water that we had.
Absolutely. And of course, Mumu Fresh, you know that, and we know that all these issues are interconnected. Yes, we have a responsibility, but really when it comes to this climate emergency, as it comes to this genocide and police violence, it's the system. It's the system that is perpetuating this, and we don't get the information of what we vaguely have been hearing, what these bombs are doing. in terms of the environment, and we hear about people who live in certain places, for example, in Louisiana and certain areas in the South that are just the cancer rates are so high because of these climate issues. So, yes, we have a responsibility, but I would say, Mumu Fresh, our number one responsibility is to help build a movement to stop, because this is another form, I hate to say it, but it's another form of genocide. The rates, our health in this country is not getting better. It's getting worse.
And they're projecting cancer to be way more rampant in the next 20 years than it even is now. But we have to do the research and find out who are these companies, how we can boycott them, how we can work together because that's all they listen to is money. In this capitalist country, the only thing that matters is money. It's not life at all. So that is, that has to be the target. But, boycotting takes discipline from us.
That's right.
It takes a real amount of commitment and discipline to stay on it and for the things that we may have to sacrifice in order to push the needle and force their hand,
Absolutely. And it not only takes discipline, and we learn and we talk about things like the Montgomery bus boycott, which lasted for 381 days. It was discipline, but it was a movement, an organized movement with ministers and everyday people getting involved and deciding how to most effectively boycott those buses. And hopefully Katia's on with me now. We need a movement, and WPFW is very much a part of movement building because we encourage people, we educate people, inspire people, hopefully, to jump out there in those streets, to write letters and postcards to your city council, to be involved in a movement to change this world. Before we keep on talking, we're going to hear 1 minute of another amazing song that Mumu Fresh did a while back, and it has to do with our food.
This is an ode to Monsanto and other genetically engineered and processed foods. We don't appreciate it. Monsanto, you came and you killed without shooting. And I want you to know, Monsanto, see, we know the truth about GMO. And we want you to go, Monsanto. See, we trusted you with our fruits and vegetables. You said FDA approved, but you lied. See, you pay them off and we won't be pacified or digest your mutated Frankenstein products this time. 'Cause the bottom line is we don't want cancer.
Wow.
Oh man, that's funny. I forgot about that.
Yes, you wrote that song a while back, but again, that song represents so much of what we talk about on this show and on the station. We know about the horrific genocide in Gaza, at least some of us know, but we don't really. It's not really explained to us that they're poisoning the food, and we. Back when my friend Brother Bay was with us, we talked about Monsanto all the time, but we haven't talked about Monsanto lately. But again, it's the system of food that is shortening our lives, and that's for sure. And again, it's supported by the capitalist system. You walk into some of these stores. I walk into a CVS, and it's almost like, to me, it's like a nightmare. All you see is rows and rows and rows of sugar, candy. That's it. And things that are poisoning us. So thank you for that song. Fresh. I hate to say we're almost out of time, and I'm hoping that sometime in the future we'll have a way that the community can gather together with you, maybe with a PFW event or something else. But you are very much a part of the community, and we're very proud of you. So we have we do have 3 or 4 minutes left, and Damien, if you want to jump in, I don't know if Frankie's still on, for final comments before we go out with this beautiful version of the North Star. But what else would you like to share, Mumu Fresh, with us about the world or anything?
Well, I think I was thinking about the interconnectedness of so many of the issues, right? I was thinking about police brutality in Cop City, the training ground in Atlanta, that a lot of activists are fighting to not have built. A lot of climate activists also wanting for that not to be built because they'll have to tear down so many hundreds and hundreds of trees in order to make that happen. And they're already dealing with so much air pollution because of the traffic, as well as the IDF from Israel are training American police officers on how to better deal with us. All that's problematic, and it's all related. These are not isolated events. When I was out in Standing Rock and we were protesting against the pipeline, I was trying to show people the connectedness. It's not a Native American issue. Water is everyone issue. Water travels around the whole planet. And we have to stop the drilling. And us ourselves, we have to get away from products that are fossil fuel made. We have to drain them dry until they have no more customers to buy their products. So just all of these things are connected. The Congo, I hear a lot of Black people sometimes, I don't want to say a lot, but there are enough online who are saying, why are we so worried about Palestine? Why don't we focus on Congo? We absolutely have to focus on Congo. And that ties us into back to the climate crisis, right? There's, first of all, the forests in Congo, if taken care of, can help reduce carbon emissions. And then we're looking at the electric vehicles and all of the technology for our phones being stolen out of the Congo. The children there, the whole reason they're being murdered and enslaved and raped has to do with getting these natural resources for our phones. The Congolese president is talking with the Israeli prime minister about forcibly displacing Palestinians into Congo in the middle of that genocide and in the mining of those natural resources. It is absolutely all connected. Like all of these things, there's a tie-in. You ever seen that movie Crash? How all these people's lives are intrinsically connected? That is how it is. And if we ever start to feel like, well, that's their issue and not our issue, we're wrong. We're all the way off the path. And if you don't get that, there will come a time when you will get that, because it's going to come to your door, because this stuff is less than 6 degrees of separation. It's like maybe 2 degrees of separation.
Absolutely.
Between most of the issues that we're dealing with. And when you deal with one, you will impact the other, negatively or positively. We all want to go green, but at what cost? We have to figure out, how do you go green sustainably and ethically? You can't murder children to go green to save the planet. We have to find ways. And at the bottom of it, capitalism just does not go well with the love for human beings. You got to find another way, It can't just be the most profit with the least amount of effort. That is not a sustainable model to care for humanity. It's not going to work that way.
Absolutely.
It has to be a situation where, yes, people want to prosper, but we have to weigh out the checks and the balances. It has to be ethical, or we can't do that. You can't prosper at the expense of everyone else. There has to be checks and balances put in place that make sure that everyone has what they need. And the thing is, look to indigenous cultures who didn't even use money, and everybody had what they needed.
Yeah, well, we know that all is possible, but again, we need a movement to bring down the monster that's killing the world. We're almost out of time, and I want to play a little bit of this song we're going to hear again. This is Black History Month, but next month is Women's History Month. We're going to be talking a lot about Harriet Tubman. There's going to be a trip to the Eastern Shore in March, which we'll talk about later. But this song and the concept of the North Star, and I was so inspired to hear your version. This is a song that, and you won't hear the whole thing right now, but it's a song that perfect for young people to sit and listen to Mumu Fresh's version of this North Star. So let's hear a little bit of it, and then we'll come back.
Follow the drinking gold.
monkey wrench turns the wagon wheel towards Canada. With help from Jesus the carpenter, follow the bear's trail through the woods. Fill your baskets with enough food and supplies to get you to the crossroads. Once you're at the crossroads, dig a log cabin in the ground. Shoefly told us to dress up in cotton and satin bow ties. Follow the flying geese and birds in the air. Stay on the drunkard's path. Take the sailboat across the Great Lakes to the North Star above Canada. Son, you gotta know that in this life, people will try to confuse you. You will get lost, and when you lose your way, remember that your ancestors were astronomers. They traveled thousands of miles with only a star as their guidance system. So when you lose your way in this world, and people try to confuse you about who you are, remember that I said you were a king. And may these words resonate in your heart and in your mind forever. May they be your internal guidance system so that you may always find your way back home to yourself.
Okay, that was MUMU Fresh, that beautiful version of the North Star, which goes on for about 4 more minutes and talks to the young people. Damien, you want to say last? I think we're just about out of time. Is that right,
Yes.
Mikey?
I wanted MUMU Fresh to please share with the audience how the listeners can follow you and any upcoming events that you have locally in the community here.
Okay.
That may be coming up.
Yeah, you can follow me. My website is mumufresh.com, mumufresh.com. I'm on Instagram at mumufresh.com. I'm on Facebook at mumufresh.com. Let me think. I don't think we have anything coming up right now. February 19th, I'll be at the Blue Note in New York. And I think maybe March 2nd, I'll be locally at the Baltimore Center Stage, I believe. But
Okay.
I'll have all the information on my website as it firms up.
Okay, thank you so much. We're so thankful for you. Thank you, Mikey. Thank you, Mari. Thanks, Damien and Katia. And we're out of time.
Thousands of miles with only a star as their guidance system.